Hello everyone, welcome to the Tim Booker channel. I wish you all an enjoyable listening experience. Today, I'll be interpreting the book OptionB for you. The author of this book is Sheryl Sandberg, a woman who could be considered perfect in both her career and family life. She has held executive positions at Google and Facebook and was once referred to as the First Lady of Facebook. Her family life is harmonious. Her husband is her soulmate who loves, understands, and supports her. They have 2 lovely children together. However, fate took an unexpected turn in May 2015. Sheryl and her husband traveled to Mexico to celebrate a friend's birthday. One afternoon, her husband suffered a sudden cardiac arrest and collapsed while working out in the gym. He passed away unexpectedly at a relatively young age, leaving no goodbyes or last words. Sheryl and her family were entirely unprepared for this tragedy. When Sheryl saw her husband for the last time, he lay lifeless on the gym floor, cold to the touch. In that moment, Sheryl broke down. She wept day and night, overwhelmed by regret, pain, and longing. She described her grief as akin to waves that made her want to throw her heart out of her body. She tried to be strong, to control her sorrow, but no matter what she did, she couldn't escape the image of her husband lying alone on the gym floor. In her despair, Sheryl made a call to Adam Grant, a friend of her husband's and a psychologist at the Wharton School. Adam immediately flew to Sheryl's city to offer his assistance. With Adam's help, it took Sheryl a whole year to emerge from the darkness. After her recovery, she collaborated with Adam Grant to write this book. The inspiration for it came from a comment made by one of Sheryl's friends. 2 weeks after her husband's death, their children's school organized a parent-child activity. Sheryl realized that her husband could never participate again. She confided in her friend, expressing her desire for her husband's presence. Her friend told her that her life's option A was no longer available, and she had to consider option B. This led Sheryl to choose option B as the title of the book, representing the alternative choices one has to make when faced with life's inevitable challenges. She aimed to share her experience through this book and help others who are similarly suffering, giving them the tools to recover from adversity. Now, let's delve into the specific methods for building resilience. According to Sheryl, resilience is the ability to endure and overcome pain, ultimately emerging from it. Strengthening one's resilience can be broken down into 6 steps. The first step is to recognize and move beyond the 3 Ps trap, a theory proposed by positive psychology guru Martin Seligman. He believes that 3 cognitive factors, each beginning with the letter P, can lead individuals to become pessimistic and lose hope after facing setbacks. The first P is personalization, meaning people tend to believe that bad things happen solely because of their own actions. Sheryl initially fell into this cognitive trap. Her husband's cause of death was a heart arrhythmia triggered by coronary artery disease. Sheryl felt it was her husband's responsibility because he had mentioned occasional chest pains before, but they didn't take it seriously and didn't undergo medical checkups. She thought that if she had recognized her husband's heart condition earlier, she could have encouraged him to improve his diet and lifestyle, and he might not have died. To escape the trap of personalization, it's crucial to practice accurate attribution and not shoulder all the blame. Her husband's death was not Sheryl's fault. Her private physician, after reviewing all his medical records and advanced reports, informed her that even if they had detected the heart condition earlier and improved his habits, it wouldn't have saved his life since arrhythmias can lead to sudden death. The second P is pervasiveness, where individuals believe that negative events will impact all aspects of their lives. After her husband's death, Sheryl believed that her world would cease to function without him. She would cry herself to sleep every night and wake up with tears in the morning. Everyday occurrences would trigger emotional breakdowns. For instance, when her child fell off a bike, she would think that things wouldn't have been so bad if her husband were there. She canceled meetings with clients, feeling unprepared to interact and unable to concentrate. Over time, Sheryl started countering the pervasiveness trap by finding contrary evidence. She realized that her ability to focus at work was gradually increasing. Her husband's death hadn't ruined every aspect of her life. She was able to engage more fully in her work again. The third P is permanence, where people believe that a negative event will affect them indefinitely, and they'll never recover. Sheryl's thoughts went even further, imagining a future where her children would never have their father around. However, psychologists have found that individuals tend to overestimate the enduring impact of negative events. Cheryl learned about a study where people were asked to predict how they would feel after a breakup and compared that to the actual experiences of individuals who had gone through breakups. Those experiencing the event were happier over time than those who had only imagined it. This suggests that people magnify the negative event's impact and are more pessimistic than reality warrants. To counter the permanence trap, Cheryl learned to rephrase her statements, replacing always and never with more accurate terms like now or sometimes. In summary, Seligman's 3P traps emphasize that our thoughts shape our emotional experiences, and different perspectives lead to different outcomes. Escaping these traps involves recognizing that setbacks aren't always our fault, that their effects might not be all-encompassing, and that they won't last forever. By addressing these cognitive distortions, individuals can find the strength to move forward. Moving on to the second step of building resilience, gratitude is essential. Recognizing elements in life that are worth being grateful for prevents people from losing hope. Gratitude helps individuals focus on the positives and increases happiness. In an experiment, participants were asked to record events each week, either positive, negative, or neutral. Those who recorded moments of gratitude reported higher levels of happiness after 9 weeks. Adam instructed Cheryl to imagine scenarios worse than her husband's death, which led her to appreciate the positive aspects of her life. Despite her loss, Cheryl found many reasons to be grateful, such as her supportive family, friends, colleagues, and financial stability that ensured her children's well-being. This perspective relieved some of her pain. The greatest gratitude Cheryl felt was for her continued health. When she received a call from a doctor about a suspicious spot on her mammogram, she spent an agonizing night dreading the worst. But the follow-up ultrasound revealed that it wasn't cancer. Cheryl began to genuinely appreciate her health and the beauty of life. By overcoming the 3P traps and composing a gratitude list, Cheryl discovered that, despite her husband's absence, her life was still filled with things to be thankful for. Now comes the third step, seeking help from the outside. After a tragedy, it's when people need external support the most. However, individuals going through grief experience conflicting thoughts. On one hand, they may voluntarily isolate themselves from others. For instance, in Cheryl's case during her early days back at work, she often appeared expressionless and acted as if nothing had happened. She refrained from mentioning her husband to colleagues because she disliked their condolences like, "My condolences," or, "Things will get better soon." He felt these comments were insincere comfort and that people didn't understand that things would never truly get better. On the other hand, people undergoing grief long for social interaction but fear rejection. They worry that sharing their overwhelming grief might burden friends. Cheryl feared her friends might listen while secretly feeling impatient. This fear prevented her from reaching out for help. Ironically, deep inside, she yearned to communicate but worried that her relationships would deteriorate. However, it's important to note that silence doesn't eliminate grief. Often, it just means grief isn't discussed. A phenomenon called the ring theory explains why people might not reach out. Imagine the person most affected by a tragedy in the center of a circle. People close to the center, like family members, are in the next circle, followed by friends and acquaintances in subsequent circles. People should comfort those closer to the center and seek support from those farther away. Unfortunately, friends might distance themselves from someone in the center, fearing they can't handle the intensity of the grief. This is known as ring theory. Some individuals might even avoid friends facing hardship because they feel overwhelmed. For instance, Alicia, who suffered a sexual assault, was abandoned by a close friend when she sought psychological support. The friend confessed feeling powerless and guilty for not preventing the assault. Feeling burdened, the friend distanced herself. Alicia's experience highlights how the topic of grief avoidance isn't an indication that grief doesn't exist. Cheryl, too, reached a point where her loneliness and sorrow became overwhelming. She posted about her pain as a cry for help. Friends responded with messages and calls. Some strangers even shared their own painful experiences to provide comfort. Cheryl realized that expressing her feelings wasn't as scary as she thought. Many people avoid saying, "I need help," but others interpret this as not needing assistance. It's vital to speak up and seek help openly. So, who should you confide in? After the post-incident, Cheryl used the ring theory to choose whom to confide in. The person most affected by her husband's death was her 2 children, who were at the center of the circle. The next layer included Cheryl herself, her husband's parents, and siblings. The third layer involved her husband's closest friends and Cheryl's family members. The fourth layer included her husband's colleagues and Cheryl's friends. Since Cheryl was in the second layer, she first comforted her children at the center. If she needed to share, she sought support from the third layer, her husband's closest friends and her family members. She could also reach out to the fourth layer, her husband's colleagues and her own friends. After publishing the post describing her inner turmoil, Cheryl took the opportunity to ask her friends why they hadn't been there for her earlier. One friend revealed feeling anxious when being around Cheryl, fearing saying something wrong. Another friend admitted driving past Cheryl's house several times but was unsure if visiting was appropriate. People often struggle with how to console someone in deep grief. They may opt for silence instead of saying something that might seem trite or inadequate. But, as a friend, what should you do? The key is to communicate your willingness to help. Simply ask what you can do or suggest activities like taking a walk together. By overcoming the 3P traps, listing things to be grateful for, and receiving help from friends, Cheryl moved towards healing. Next is the fourth step to gaining resilience, confronting self-pitying emotions. Facing emotions doesn't mean drowning in them, it's about respecting your feelings, acknowledging your sadness, and accepting that sadness as a reality. Cheryl and her children made an agreement: whenever they felt sad, they would pause whatever they were doing and let their feelings flow out rather than suppressing them. After several attempts, Cheryl noticed that when she stopped resisting her grief and allowed the strong pain to surface, it actually faded away more quickly. In addition to confronting emotions, self-compassion is equally vital. Self-compassion is a psychological concept that involves treating oneself with the same care and understanding as one would extend to others, rather than engaging in self-blame and shame. Practicing self-compassion accelerates recovery from challenging situations. Many U.S. soldiers returning from Iraq and Afghanistan, dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, display panic, sadness, guilt, and decreased communication with their families. Research shows that the trait of self-compassion significantly alleviates symptoms of PTSD. Recognizing and sympathizing with oneself helps individuals realize they are not inherently bad or responsible for others' misfortune, encouraging them to move forward. An effective technique for both confronting emotions and practicing self-compassion is journaling. Many psychological experiments illustrate that journaling facilitates emotional healing by transforming feelings into words. This enables accurate identification of emotions, whether they're sadness, anger, or disappointment. This self-analysis helps label emotions and provides clarity about the source of the negative feelings, aiding in moving forward. When journaling, it's essential to focus on venting emotions initially. The goal is to write down whatever comes to mind. Cheryl recalled her wonderful moments with her husband, including their arguments and disagreements, as well as her yearning for him. Writing allowed her to release her inner turmoil of grief, regret, despair, and helplessness. Once emotions are expressed, try reflecting on 3 positive things done that day. Even during challenging times, there are positive accomplishments, whether successful teleconferencing, cooking a delicious dinner for the kids, or checking in with parents. Research found that subjects who spent 5 to 10 minutes each day writing about positive events and their reasons experienced significant reductions in stress levels after 3 weeks. However, journaling might not be suitable immediately after experiencing a misfortune. During the acute phase of grief, individuals often find themselves paralyzed, unable to perform any tasks. Some might not react immediately due to the suddenness of the event. It takes time for the full impact to settle in, and during this period, attempting to forcefully address grief or depression might backfire, preventing emotional release. When you're capable of confronting your emotions and practicing self-compassion. Next is the 5th step to gaining resilience, finding the meaning of life and realizing self-worth. Family, religion, and a sense of mission from work can all help individuals find meaning in life. Believing that one's work can make a meaningful impact on others reduces fatigue and burnout. When people perceive that their work has a positive influence on others, they are more energetic both at work and at home, better equipped to handle difficulties. Furthermore, trauma can open doors to new possibilities. Cheryl's friend Jeff, after his wife passed away from colon cancer, quit his previous job and joined a biotech company that focuses on detecting cancer in its early stages. He recognized he couldn't save his wife but aimed to save hundreds or even thousands of lives in the next decade through his technology. Jeff expressed newfound vigor each morning and eagerly immersed himself in his work. The sixth and final step to gaining resilience is reintroducing happiness into life. Many people believe they won't experience happiness again after significant setbacks, particularly when mourning a loved one. Cheryl once thought this way, avoiding activities that might bring happiness, feeling that enjoying life would betray the deceased. She refrained from playing games with her children that her husband used to play, and she avoided shows they used to watch together. However, even after immense grief, allowing happiness is crucial for one's ongoing life. The book narrates the story of a woman named Virginia, who endured the sudden loss of her husband and later, her son due to a drug overdose on the eve of her daughter's wedding. Instead of succumbing to sorrow, Virginia held her daughter's wedding as planned and arranged her son's funeral. She then became actively involved in drug prevention activities and embarked on road trips with her beloved dog. Virginia remarked, "The deaths of my husband and son are part of my life, but they do not define me. Happiness is important to me. Moreover, happiness can start with small things." Some believe only major milestones like weddings, graduations, or significant anniversaries are worth pursuing, while disregarding everyday joys. In reality, the continuity of happiness depends more on frequency than intensity. Cheryl suggests creating a happiness list. This involves noting activities that bring a little happiness and then making an effort to engage in them. For Cheryl, finding happiness involved rekindling games with her children, planning weekend outings, and watching TV shows her husband hadn't finished. Additionally, during journaling, recording moments of happiness has its merits. Documenting happy experiences in writing extends the positive emotions and fosters a more sustained positive outlook. Finally, exercise can bring happiness. Many doctors and therapists highlight exercise as one of the best methods to improve mental health. Alright, at this point, we've covered the 6 steps to gaining resilience. The first step is identifying the 3 P's trap. When something goes wrong, don't always blame yourself and believe that the negative impact will be pervasive. The second step involves creating a gratitude list to realize that you still possess many things. In the third step, we can seek help from family and friends, being open about our feelings. The fourth step includes facing emotions and practicing self-compassion. The fifth step encourages actively pursuing the meaning of life and self-worth. The sixth step involves returning to normalcy, rediscovering happiness. With Adam's and others' help, Cheryl gradually overcame the grief of losing her husband. She regained her sense of humor and even began considering dating again. But Cheryl's journey didn't stop there. Emerging from her grief, she created a website called OptionB, aiming to leverage collective strength. Through this platform, people share their pain and help each other restart happier lives. After her husband's death, such support groups provided solace to Cheryl and her children. Cheryl recalls her first experience attending a grief support center's event where she met a person named Jim Shanto. He shared that he had lost a child. Cheryl realized that in such supportive groups, nearly everyone had experienced some form of grief, having lost their dearest family members. But Shanto emphasized that it was only in such supportive environments that he could hear people saying, "I truly understand you," instead of just expressing sorrow for them. This shared understanding and support formed a guiding light for those still struggling in the depths of pain. You see, he had been through such experiences and had emerged stronger. Alright, another choice has been interpreted for you. Congratulations, you've completed another book. Thank you for listening. This is Tim Booker Channel. Please subscribe to Tim Booker Channel, like, and share this valuable knowledge with your friends. Let's combine wisdom with practice to achieve our financial goals and create a better future. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.